Hello guys, ghouls and gals, and welcome back to the archives. I'm your host, Nick Nightmare, and today we will once again be diving back into the realm of Dead by Daylight and looking into the stories of two more killers within the fog, a feral cannibal and a tragic criminal. These are the stories of the Hag and the Wraith. Now, let's begin with the cannibalistic killer herself. No, not you. The Hag is a simple-to-grasp killer with a relatively low skill ceiling. Like Trapper, she places traps on the ground in the form of sigils. When a survivor gets too close to this trap, a phantom version of the Hag appears in its place, causing the survivor's camera to snap towards the copy and allowing the Hag to teleport to the activated trap. But who is the Hag? Lisa Sherwood grew up in a small town in the middle of a swampy area. Her neighbors were quite kind, and the village elders helped settle disputes and taught Lisa about fortune and safety charms. But Lisa's grandmother warned her of the dangers that came with messing with that which is unknown, when she saw her drawing one of the sigils she had found in her grandmother's cookbook before a test. Lisa apologized, although she just wanted to know the stories of the witches and the cannibals that had been chased out of the village, not truly believing all of this voodoo nonsense, and only drawing the sigil for luck on an upcoming test. Her grandmother insisted, though, warning her that that was the same sigil she drew when she was being chased down by a cannibal in the swamp. The very same one that transformed that cannibal into a gnarled, twisted swamp tree. This was ridiculous, Lisa thought. The power behind the sigils was all just superstition, and while she wanted to laugh, she just kissed her grandmother softly on the forehead. Now, let's stop the music for just a second. I'm gonna break character. As you all know, I love Dead by Daylight, especially Dead by Daylight lore. But this next line is possibly the stupidest, most on-the-nose line I have ever read. Don't worry, Gran. I'm not gonna turn into a swamp tree or be kidnapped by a bunch of cannibals. Behavior. What? Let's continue. Hopefully this is the last of the somewhat goofy storytelling. Lisa begins to notice her grades are improving after she begins drawing the symbols in her journal. But surely that doesn't mean anything, right? It's a placebo effect. She convinced herself that the symbols were just lucky. Right? Her friend Pam begins to copy down the symbols in her own journal. And for some reason this upsets Lisa. You shouldn't mess with the powers you don't understand. The same warning her grandmother had given. And just like Lisa, Pam brushed the warning off. If these things can help you pass math, they can help me pass English too. No big deal. Pam begins to beg Lisa for more symbols. She has a test soon with a teacher she isn't exactly a fan of, calling him an overweight, pill-popping bore. But Lisa refuses. She tells Pam that she isn't even allowed in her grandmother's cookbook, so she definitely shouldn't be sharing it with strangers. Pam shrugs this off and, using a toothpick, begins to scratch another symbol into her arm. Now, you may be wondering, if Lisa didn't let her see the book, where did she get this symbol? Well, keep wondering, folks, because it doesn't really say. And while I know I said I hope the goofy writing stops, I hate to say that it just kind of gets worse from here, as Pam goes from being an obnoxious little girl to an actually inhuman monster. She asks Lisa if she had heard the news about the woman near the school, and upon learning that Lisa hadn't heard anything, she not only laughs about the fact that this woman got hit by a truck and died, she brings Pam back to where it happened. Mind you, this event isn't long past. It is still fresh, as Lisa can still smell, and I quote, the fermenting human fluids in the cracks of the pavement. Pam then takes the time to point out the little bits of flesh and hair that are left in the road, and making jokes at the woman's expense. Unfortunately, I know that this isn't even completely a caricature of real life. Lisa tells Pam that she shouldn't make fun of the woman, lest she anger her spirit, but Pam just tells her to stop being creepy. Even if she was still around to get offended, which she's not, Pam is covered in all of the good luck symbols Lisa's given her recently. Lisa isn't so sure. She remembers her grandmother telling her about how sometimes spirits tend to linger in their realm, especially when they didn't want to die. Pam's English teacher passes away before her test, causing Pam to, as the little gremlin she is, jump with joy as she no longer has to take a test on a, I once again quote, irrelevant dead author. She doesn't mention the full name of the author, all she says is James, and the only James author that I know is still alive. Anyways, Lisa tends to disagree. She enjoys James's writing, as it allows her to live in a character's head for a little while. When does this take place? Okay, I promise I will stop being a book nerd. For now. Pam continues to celebrate her newfound luck, showing off all of the sigils she scrawled onto her hands and arms. Lisa is disturbed by the pure number of them, repressing her urge to scream at Pam for being so careless with that which she doesn't understand. And silently, she hopes that her English teacher wanted to be dead, lest he still remain. Soon a funeral is held for their English teacher. Pam continues to giggle and jeer at the pallbearers, bragging about how lucky she is compared to them. After all, she isn't the one who has to carry their lard-ass of a teacher to his grave. Lisa tries to get Pam to stop, but as she continues, she begins to feel strange. A weird tug in her gut tells her she isn't safe near her friend. She gets a feeling the spirits have been angered by Pam and slowly begins to inch away from her. And this, my friends, might just be the most unintentionally silly animation for any of these tomes.
Hey.
That's right, folks. Somehow, after tripping and falling, the pallbearers basically throw the coffin on top of Pam, crushing her. Don't ask me how. Sometime after Pam's passing, Lisa got lost on her way home from the woods. A harsh storm had struck with no warning, and she lost her footing, hitting her head on something. And as she began to lose consciousness, she began to see the figures behind the trees, growing closer and closer. When she awoke, it was within a flooded cellar of a group of cannibals. Her arms were chained to the wall, and she was surrounded by others who had met the same fate as her. They had large wounds that swarmed with flies and other bugs, and when the cannibals would become hungry, they would begin carving pieces of their skin off with their rusty kitchen knives. Despite this, Lisa survived, and as her wounds and the starvation began to leave her arms scrawny and weak, eventually they became thin enough that she was able to pull herself free from her bondage, ripping through skin and muscle until she was free. Despite her newfound freedom, though, she felt weary and weak. Her wounds had become infected, and she had become extremely sick. She couldn't go on any longer, and in her dying state, she began to think of home. And an anger surged within her. A dark hunger, one that could only be satiated by blood. Eventually, the police's search had brought them to the old house where Lisa had been held. But no Lisa to be found. The homeowners were found dismembered, with their organs devoured, with the house covered in the same sigils Lisa had been taught, drawn in the blood of her captors. And this is unfortunately where Lisa's story ends for now, but we do have another story for all of you lovely viewers out there, and this story is one of Philip Ajomo, otherwise known as the Wraith. Wraith is a simple to learn and simple to master killer, with his power being that of the wailing bell. When the Wraith is cloaked, he becomes almost invisible, and he becomes faster in this state, though he is unable to swing. When he uncloaks, he hits his bell, creating his signature before gaining a large speed boost for a short amount of time. But who is Philip Ajomo? Philip Ajomo was born to a family in northern Nigeria. When he was just a boy, his family had heard the tales of safety to those hiding and went to investigate. Safety from what, you may ask? From the monsters. Worse than any of the campfire stories Philip's father had told him. He sat outside, holding his lucky bell, and watching for his parents and the rest of the villagers' returns. But few did. And those that did came back with horror stories. Stories of death, destruction, mayhem. Philip was confused. Why did the monsters hate them so much? His grandmother simply tells him, because the radio and television tell them to. But what did I ever do to them? You were born a northerner. Philip's grandmother could see she had clearly upset the boy, but she continues. If you see anything, if you see danger, ring your father's bell and hide with the others. Philip asks his grandmother if his parents will return. His grandmother takes a long pause before telling Philip no. They can't. They're surely hiding. Philip, now in tears, sees through the farce. He will never see his parents again. Philip hasn't seen his grandmother smile in days. A foul stench wafts through the village. Grandmother Abigail tries to tell Philip that it's just the stench of decomposing cows, but he knows the truth. He heard the village speaking of the burn crews sent to get rid of the bodies of the dead. Men who were paid to make his people disappear, as if they were nothing but common vermin. A deal with the devil for money. Philip feels a deep hatred for these men and lies awake at night, hoping his parents had truly escaped them, hoping that they'd return home soon. But they never did. Grandmother Abby was all he had left. She lies with him, and Philip lays his head against her, closing his eyes and crying. Abby tries to speak, but she is unable to say anything. When Philip looks up at her face, she is silently sobbing. But before Philip can comfort his grandmother, a loud bell resounds through the village. His grandmother grows stone-faced as she picks him up and rushes him to the hatch in the backyard. They hide underground as the sounds of their people dying above them vibrate through the ground. Philip suppresses his urge to scream with his village above him as he hears them being slowly and maliciously slaughtered. Silence follows. Philip shifts uncomfortably, trying to listen for any sound, but none come. Eventually, Abby nudges him. Let's see your math skills, Philip. She's trying to distract him, but Philip complies. He solves Grandma Abby's equations as they steadily get more difficult. As he answers more and more equations, his eyes begin to water. His grandmother tries to get him to focus on her, tries to tell him not to think about what's happening outside, but he can't help it. His mother and father had been the ones to teach him math. They told him it'd make him good in school, give him learning opportunities his parents had never had. His father won't ever be able to help Philip with math again. He'll never play chess again, never tell Philip his stories. All because some men had taken some money to do the devil's work. Abby nudges him again, but as Philip begins to ask for the equation again, a single cry rings out through the silence. The cry of an infant. His grandmother begins to climb the ladder, but Philip grabs her hand, begging her not to go. But she can't leave the poor boy out there alone. Philip releases her hand and watches his grandmother continue to ascend the ladder. Philip sits there, watching the hatch, refusing to take his eyes off of it. He's not sure how long it's been. Hours, days, weeks? He continues to repeat equations off the top of his head, but all he wants is to see his parents, see his grandmother again. But he knew she had probably disappeared like the others. He ascends the ladder, deciding he'd rather be dead than continue living without them, and upon pushing through the hatch, his senses are immediately assaulted by the smell of rot. It reminds him of the smell of hot roadkill. He finds his father's bell next to the charred corpse of a villager. He was supposed to warn the village. He was supposed to keep a lookout. His raspy whispers for his grandmother turns into screaming, crying, a deafening sound. in the otherwise quiet night. Unable to scream any longer, he falls to his knees, tapping his bell with his finger and wishing he could just disappear from this nightmare. Philip makes his way to the neighboring villages, but it's always the same. Burned and charred remains, mirroring that of his own home. Philip collapses to his knees. He can't go on. He doesn't have the strength nor the will to keep going. His eyes sting from the smoke, his stomach churns from the stench of death that surrounds him, and his ears ring, not from the noise that surrounds him, but rather the overwhelming silence. He collapses near a tree, laying his head down to rest. But moments later, he hears a voice. A calming, soft voice, like that of his mother's. When he opens his eyes, he sees a woman and her children staring at him. The woman, who reveals her name to be Funanya, beckons Philip to join her. Through tears, Philip tells her he doesn't want to run anymore. He just wants to die. And that is why you must live. You must live to tell others what happened, to bear witness. Philip stares back at the woman and her children, before following them through the thick smoke and fog, refusing to disappear. Philip and Funspot find themselves entering the homes of those who have already been killed, scavenging for supplies. Freerin finds a coloring set, explaining that sometimes drawing is a good escape from the evil of the world. Philip doesn't want to draw anymore. He doesn't want to do math. He doesn't want to do anything but wake up from the nightmare. He goes outside to where two of Fallout Boy's children are watching, handing them his father's lucky bell and telling them they should ring it if she sees anything. They continue from house to house. The smell of kerosene is ever potent in every house. Philip has begun to hate the smell of kerosene. One of the children, Nikki, asks why the crews are burning everything. Philip is the one to answer. They're burning evidence. Death plus destruction equals good business for devils disguised as humans. Philip feels a deep anger, a burning hatred build up inside of him as he shouts out, "They should all be killed! Those who pay for murder and those who profit from it." Funyun Ring gives him a disapproving stare. "Don't say such things. They are trying to take our humanity from us, and that is the one thing they cannot take unless we give it to them." In a fit of rage, Philip spits back, "I don't want a sermon, I want my family back. I want them to pay for what they did." Fubuki begs with Philip, "Pray with the angel of mercy that we may survive to bear witness. I'd rather pray to the angel of death and watch them suffer. Forgive and be forgiven? I can't. I hate them. How can they take money to do such things?" Futaba tries to talk sense into Philip. "There will be justice, Philip. They will not get away with their crimes." He doesn't respond. He doesn't respond because, like his father, he knows that those with enough money to hire killing crews also have enough money to get away with such atrocities. She can pray for mercy all she likes. He'd rather pray for vengeance. Animals. That's what those men were. Goddamn animals. He can't get them out of his head. If he survives this, if he escapes, he'll have his revenge. While he knows he should keep these dark thoughts to himself, he can't help but share them with Funko Pop. She tells him an eye for an eye is not the path one should take, for that would only lead the world to go blind. But are they not already blind to the pain that he and his people have gone through? They don't care. To hell with them. All of this destruction and unrest were meant to happen. A universal equation to divide his people and ultimately subtract them from existence. Fenrir, the world destroyer and bringer of Ragnarok, continues to quote dead leaders, and for a moment it makes Philip stop to think. For a moment he thinks she's right. Maybe one day the world will wake up from its slumbering indifference and do something to help. Maybe. It's Philip's turn to take night watch. As Nikki hands him the bell, he can't help but feel exhausted. He hasn't slept in days, and for what he thinks is only a moment, he shuts his eyes. That moment turns to a minute, then an hour, then a whole night. He awakens to his newfound family, missing. He jumps to his feet and searches for them, finding one, or at least pieces of one. Eventually, he finds Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and she's in a miserable state. Cut at every tendon, covered in honey and ants. Philip can't bear to look her in the eyes as she tries to speak, but she can't speak. They took her tongue. He tries to swat the ants away, but it's no use. Too many of them have already made their way under her skin. He kneels before her, trying to speak, but all he can stammer is, "I fell asleep. I'm sorry. So sorry." And with her last ounce of strength, perfect. Frieza scratched out a message in the dirt. "I forgive you." Philip continues on his journey, finding even more villages burnt to the ground. But in the middle of one, he spots them. The men who made his family disappear. He hears his family, his grandmother, trying to distract him from his revenge. But her voice is overpowered by the rage he's kept buried for so long. He contemplates how he would do it. Take their guns in the middle of the night? No, he's never fired one before, and they'd probably run away. A machete? No good. They were bigger than him, and would surely overpower him. Then it came to him. He'd give them a taste of their own medicine. Philip had burned the dogs who killed his family, but he had scarred his own face in the process. When he grows older, Philip decides he should leave his home country and look for opportunities elsewhere in a new country, happily taking a job at a shady scrapyard. He knew the shady business practices there, but he didn't care so long as he didn't get involved in them. He fixed the cars given to him, and that which couldn't be fixed went to the crusher. One day, though, Philip saw something. A small pool of blood pouring out from the trunk of one of the cars. When Philip opened it, he saw a man, bound and gagged inside. And when Philip tried to free the man, his boss stopped him, slitting his throat in front of Philip. When he demanded answers, the boss told him that every car that goes in the crusher has a body in it, as a service he offers to certain clientele. In a fit of rage, Philip throws his boss into the crusher, leaving only his head sticking out, as Philip grabs it and pulls it out of his crushed body, the spine coming out with it. He left the scrapyard and was never seen again. And that, my friends, is unfortunately where we will have to end off here. But before I go, I would like to say to all of you out there who actually watch my silly little videos, I do appreciate all of you and your patience with me. I'm trying to get these videos out in a timely manner, but between college and work, it can be hard sometimes. But when I see the love some of these videos get, it always makes me so happy. Thank Thank you all for being here for me, and I hope to see you all within the archives again soon. Goodbye for now.